What is going on, guys? Farzin Vasugan here with you for another episode of the Red Friday live chat. Appreciate you guys joining me on this Red Friday. It is the final day of January. Can you guys believe that? We are in the final day of January. We are 1 month into 2025. Wow. But here we are. We are now just a little over a week, less than 10 days away. We are single-digit days away from Super Bowl 59. And yes, your Kansas City Chiefs are playing in that game. It still feels surreal. The Chiefs going to yet another Super Bowl, which I kind of want to talk about in a moment here. So we'll get into that. We're going to talk about now, listen, we talked about the Bills, we talked about all that good stuff, and now we're making that transition to the Super Bowl and specifically the Philadelphia Eagles. What does Kansas City need to do to stop the Eagles in this game? We'll start to talk about that, what needs to be done, and how does Kansas City stop Saquon Barkley, because that is, of course, the big key for Super Bowl 59 for the Chiefs to win that game. And we'll also talk about the recent news that has a lot of you guys worked up regarding the potential Super Bowl parade. So we'll talk about that. Anything else that comes up, you guys know how this works. This is all free game territory here on the Red Friday Live Chat. It's essentially a Q&A type of deal. So you guys come in, ask your questions, give me your hot takes or any kind of take. Even if they're lukewarm or cold, we'll take all the takes. Drop those below. This is basically a Q&A. That's what this is. That's what the Red Friday Live Chat is all about. So interaction with you guys, that's what we want to do here. I'm going to start things off here, just kind of talking about the Chiefs and the fact that this is one of those funny situations here when you just look at the Chiefs. Look, I've said many times before, being able to witness the Chiefs in a Super Bowl right now still feels surreal. Still feels very surreal. It does. I think, just being able to witness a Super Bowl back in February of 2020 when the Chiefs won it, and you weren't quite sure if it was going to happen because of the way they had to come back in that game, but they did, and then they lose the following year in the Super Bowl to the Bucs with the banged up offensive line, and you just wondered, is their window closing? Will they be able to go back? Can the Chiefs figure it out? And they did. They didn't go back right away, but it didn't take them very long, and they went back playing the Eagles, the team who they're playing now. Then last year, despite all of the struggles offensively, they found a way to get through each playoff game, and they won in the Super Bowl against the 49ers in epic fashion, doing so in overtime, in an overtime period that we've never seen before in the Super Bowl. We have seen an overtime before in a Super Bowl, but not with these new weird rules here, which I'm not really a big fan of these overtime rules, the way they keep changing them, and if it's a field goal, the other team gets a chance, and then now it's even if you score a touchdown, the other team gets a chance, but that's only for the playoffs. It's weird. I don't like it, but that's just how the rules went. And the Chiefs defense, as tired as they were, they stood strong against the 49ers. They had that field goal they allowed rather than a touchdown, and the Chiefs marched down the field in a perfect methodical drive there. And it just kept you on your feet. And the Chiefs, in walk-off fashion, won that Super Bowl. And this year, the games have just been exciting to the wire. I know they like to say cardiac Commanders in Washington, but really it's, you could say cardiac Chiefs. You could bring that up as well. So I think we're kind of at this point now where, listen, I still remember those days of seeing other teams, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I hated watching the AFC Championship game. Hated it. Anytime another team held the Lamar Hunt trophy, I hated it, man. I'm like a part of me is like, okay, congrats to them, they earned it. But another part of me is like, they do not. That is not their trophy. That is that has our owner's name on it. When are we going to get that trophy? And we've seen the Chiefs hoist that trophy 5 times. I've said this before. Listen, the Lombardi Trophy is obviously the one, But if there's one owner in the NFL that can say the Lamar Hunt trophy means more to them personally than the Lombardi trophy, it's Lamar Hunt. I mean, come on. Like with it's Clark Hunt, excuse me. With everything Lamar Hunt did, not just for the Chiefs, but for the sport of football, a lot of the AFC teams you see today and the NFL as a whole. I mean, that guy has a big impact, a big legacy he's left behind. And I think a legacy that a lot of people don't really talk about often. It doesn't get discussed as much as it should, in my opinion. And all the things that he has done. And for the Chiefs, I still remember when the Chiefs were getting ready to play the Patriots. Epic game did not go in Kansas City's favor, didn't go the Chiefs' way. But I still remember the Lamar Hunt trophy being present at the press conferences. And there's a great picture of Justin Houston looking to the side at that Lamar Hunt trophy. And I'm thinking, yeah, that trophy is finally present in Kansas City. But that's not good enough. We need to see that trophy in the Hall of Honor, in the Hall of Fame, the Chiefs Hall of Fame. And eventually, it didn't happen right away. But the following year, they got it. A few more times, they got it. 5 Lamar Hunt trophies are now in the Chiefs Hall of Honor, which is really cool. Again, I hated watching AFC Championship games in the past. And listen, the Chiefs are not going to go to the AFC Championship game every single year. It's just not a reality. But I think, I think as a fan, you can kind of relax a bit the next time someone else wins. Like the Bengals won, and it was at Arrowhead. It's like, okay. I mean, the Chiefs won it a couple of times, and you knew the Chiefs were going to be back. You just knew. Some people were kind of concerned with the Tyreek Hill thing, but obviously we know how that has turned out for sure. All right, I do want to start talking about the Chiefs defense here. And I'm not going to spend too much time like analyzing X's and O's, that kind of thing. We'll save that more for next week's podcast, and we're going to be doing a lot of them. I do have plans to do a podcast Monday and Wednesday. Just a little bit of a heads up. We might do a podcast every single day now that I think about it. I do have a guest lined up for next week. Can't say who it is yet because it's not 100% confirmed. We're like at the 1 yard line. And this is someone who knows the Chiefs very well. So having his input on the podcast would definitely be big. So can't say who it is quite yet. But it's not going to be on a Monday or a Wednesday podcast. Might be on a Tuesday or a Thursday. Like I said, we might be doing a podcast every single day. We're not sure. We're working on that. So next week's schedule is going to be all kinds of crazy. The best way you guys can stay informed and be aware, be up to date when we go live, simply make sure you're following me, especially on YouTube. I know on YouTube, if you turn on the bell notifications, you'll be notified on your smartphone. I don't think Facebook has that capability, at least not yet. So if you guys haven't done so already, please make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. There it is right there, scrolling away, but it'll come back again. YouTube.com/The Chiefs Zone. So make sure you guys are subscribed to that because that'll give you guys a notification as soon as we go live on YouTube. And of course, if you open Facebook frequently, you'll be able to catch us. It's usually in the evening, so that's when you can expect the podcast to be live. But to talk about the Chiefs defense for a moment here as they go up against Saquon Barkley. Let me start off by saying that I swung and missed last week because I said that if the Bills are ever in a situation where it's 3rd and short or 4th and short, forget it. It is a given that the Bills would get a first down. I said that. My dumbass said that last week. And guess what? This Chiefs defense, they said, oh, the tush push is a given. Screw that. We're going to do something about it. And they did. They made life difficult for Josh Allen and that Bills offense, not allowing them to convert those tush pushes very easily there. And by the way, I see a lot of you guys coming in here. I see a lot of comments. I'll get to those very soon. So if you haven't done so already, comment below, ask your questions. Let me know your thoughts on anything that's on your mind, any questions, whatever you got, whatever you want me to answer or respond to, put them in the comments below. I'll get to those shortly. So I appreciate all of you guys watching live. I know there's not going to be too long of a Red Friday live chat because it is essentially a bye week. So there's not a whole lot going on. I'm sure there will be more next week, which will be our last Red Friday live chat of the season, of course, regardless of the outcome. So make sure you guys bring your comments, post them below. Not too late. I'll get to those shortly. But as far as Saquon Barkley, and you look at the offensive line, obviously Cam Jurgens, the center who's replacing Jason Kelsey, doing a good job there for the Eagles. And you see some players on the Eagles there. They haven't gone through too many changes. Kelsey retiring obviously is the big one, but the addition of Saquon Barkley, that is the massive one. And this guy could have broken the single season rushing record if he wanted to, Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record, but decided not to. And I think that has paid off, because when you have that self imposed bye week, kind of like what the Chiefs did last year, that can go a long way. And obviously this year, and it helped that the Chiefs also had that additional bye week. People said, oh, a 24-day bye week, 24-day break for the offense. That's good. They're going to look rusty. It's a lot of, they're here in the Super Bowl. So funny how that all worked out. Yeah, that narrative died pretty quickly. But anyway, if the Chiefs can find a way to stop and challenge the tush push better than any other team that's done it so far this year, I have a lot of confidence in this Chiefs defense stopping Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley is still going to have a good game, but I don't think he's going to put up superhero type numbers like he has been all year long. I mean, what is Saquon Barkley's worst game this year in terms of rushing yards? He's rushed for 100 yards in every playoff game, 119 against the Packers, 205 against the Rams, one of the best rushing performances we've seen in a playoff game, 118 against the Commanders, much fewer carries in that game. He rushed for 65 yards against Pittsburgh. They still found a way to win by 2 possessions. And I know it was a Pittsburgh team that was declining at the time, but still rushed for 66 on November the 10th against the Cowboys. Earlier on, I mean, he had 95 yards against Atlanta, 84 against the Bucks, 47 against 47 yards. That's the fewest he had. And then he had 65 yards in December against the Steelers and 66 against the Cowboys. Other than that, Saquon Barkley has been a machine. Even when they lost to the Commanders, that really close 36-33 game where Jaden Daniels led them down the field for another game-winning drive, Barkley still had a monster game, 29 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's been putting up some big numbers all year long. Doesn't get very active in the passing game. 33 catches, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. Has not had a receiving touchdown since the first week of November. That was against the Jaguars. So, and a guy who doesn't fumble often, only 2 fumbles this entire year. And he has had 345 carries and 33 more. So 378 total touches on offense. So this is not a guy who fumbles and turns the ball over often. Very, very rare, in fact. But I think when you look at Saquon Barkley, I have a lot of confidence that Spags can hold him under 100 yards. Don't give up those big plays. The Chiefs have yet to allow a 100-yard rusher from a running back. The only 100-yard rusher this entire year is Lamar Jackson, and that was the very first game of the NFL season. So we'll see what the Chiefs do there, and we'll get more into that next week. I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions, and we'll break that down more in detail here. I do want to start off here by talking about the defensive line. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I heard this from Jonathan Kincaid. This one actually surprised me. I didn't realize this, but the more I thought about it, it made sense. The average age of the Chiefs' defensive line, the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, the average age was 32 years old. The average age now, 24 years old. Obviously, guys like Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap, they have moved away. You have Chris Jones, who's, I mean, he's not young, but he's also not like, he's not like some old guy. I mean, he's 30 years old. Just beginning the, I guess the second half, the second phase of his career, so to say, however you want to put it. Obviously, you've got some youngsters there on that defensive line. George Karlaftis is in his 3rd season there. You look at the rest of the Chiefs defensive line, a lot of young guys there. This defense in general is fairly young too. Not a lot of old vets. You have FAU, Mike Dana, who was drafted in 2020, Tershawn Wharton, who was a guy who came into the league in 2020, Mike Pennell, who not necessarily old, not young either, of course. He's 33, on the older side, I suppose. But someone who's older, Derek Nottie, I mean, he's got to be close to 30. He's 28 years old. So you've got a much younger defensive line now than you did before. And what's that saying? A hungry dog goes faster. Yeah, that'll be fun to see with this Chiefs defense. So I'm very excited to see what they do to try to stop Saquon Barkley. And you got great linebackers too to contribute in that run stopping area for sure. Last thing I want to talk about before I turn it over to you guys and answer your questions. And again, for those of you coming in late, appreciate you all. Happy Red Friday. Comment below with your questions, comments, whatever you want me to answer or respond to, and I'll get to those as we go on throughout the night. The parade. I'm seeing a lot of reactions to this. Mostly negative reactions. Some people saying they understand the matter and the situation, why they went this route. There are a lot of reactions to this here. Look, if you want to do something for safety reasons, I get it. But it's got to make sense to the public. People are not just going to buy in and say, oh, we're doing this for safety reasons. Yeah, sure. Okay. It's got to make sense. I don't know. Whenever they do the rally at Union Station, I mean, there are a lot of people there, but how many people are present at the time? I have no idea. Because I've seen people say, well, why don't they do the parade, wrap it up, and then head over to Arrowhead, and whoever's at Arrowhead, because there's security there, they just go through that line, and once you pass security, you feel safe at that point. I've seen that idea thrown out there. I suppose instead they're going to do an exclusive gathering. There will not be a rally this year in the event the Chiefs have a Super Bowl. And by the way, for people in the comments who are like, oh, wait for the game to be over first, folks, you have to plan for the parade well in advance. And I think if you're Kansas City, you have a realistic shot of having a Super Bowl parade. So maybe they plan for this a little earlier than most teams. But I guarantee you, Philadelphia either has their plans complete or very close to it. You can't just wait for the game to be. It's almost like when Bills fans were complaining that these local rally house stores in Kansas City had AFC Champions gear ready. Well, yeah, you can't just wait for the game to be over and then ask these companies to print these shirts and hats. They have to come out well in advance. These kinds of things you have to prepare for before the game even starts. And once the game ends, all you have to do is just start the planning process, cut off whatever streets, close whatever streets you need to close, and have the buses on their way. I mean, you can't just wait for all of that at the very last second. I'm surprised a lot of people still in Kansas City don't even realize that. Now, here's what doesn't make sense to me. I've seen a lot of people say, well, that kind of incident can easily happen during the parade, like on the parade route. I don't disagree. I mean, unfortunately, that is possible. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but it is possible. I think what confuses me the most is we still don't have the details as to what the heck happened. I mean, we know this led to the death of a local radio DJ, Lisa Lopez Galvan, and there were a lot of children who were shot. But we don't have a lot of details as to like what led to this happening. Because it supposedly happened at the parking garage at Union Station, but we see people running away when they hear the gunfire in different directions. So there's still a lot of unclarity from that whole thing. Like the incident had nothing to do with the rally itself. So I think that's one thing that confuses me. Look, I get what the city and the team is trying to do here. There's no way of winning in this situation here. Are there some people that normally go to parades that might choose to skip out on on this one because of safety concerns? Probably. I mean, look at what happened at New Orleans New Year's Eve. The NFL has heightened security in New Orleans because of that. So you have to you can't take risks in these kinds of situations. You just can't. Um, I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of times when these things happen, if there's VIP nearby, and there are obviously a lot with the Chiefs team, players, coaches, the ownership group, the family of the Hunt family, and some politicians as well that were there. I mean, that certainly becomes a bigger deal when you have celebrities near a situation like that. Um, but you also got to look out for everyone else as well. Listen, I don't know who has the solution to these things, and I'm not here to have a debate about gun safety and all of that. That just is not going to do us any good. This is an issue in our country, and I'm not going to make it a political issue either, because I see a lot of people making this political. Folks, I mean, we see this in blue states, red states. We see this with different presidents who are in office. This is not an Obama issue or a Trump or a Biden issue. Like, we have seen this under different leadership groups. It's just none of them have been able to figure it out. And that's as far as I'll go politically speaking. I just think at the end of the day, I don't know if there is a way to make everyone happy in this situation here. I really don't. I can certainly appreciate wanting to think of safety first. I can't think of anyone that would not want to appreciate that. But again, if we're canceling the rally because of safety concerns, what is the purpose of the parade? And I don't want to sit here and give ideas, but it's not like I'm breaking any news to you guys. I've seen a lot of people say already, well, any of that could happen during the parade. Yeah, I suppose it could. You don't want it to, but that is certainly a possibility. So I don't know. Again, I understand a lot of people are upset about that, and I'll get to your guys' comments shortly, but there's just no way of I mean, what is the solution? Who has the answer to this kind of thing? I don't know. Unfortunately, it just takes one or two shitheads to ruin it for everybody else. Hate to say it, but that's really how it all works. So those are my thoughts today on the Chiefs going back to another Super Bowl, the Saquon Barkley discussion, and also the Super Bowl parade. If you guys want to respond to any of that, any questions you guys have regarding those topics, or anything else that's on your mind, it is now your guys' turn. I am here to read your guys' comments here, and I'm going to start off with Jason hitting lead off here, talking about how Bolton locks on to Barkley here. Yeah, and it's not just going to be him. Obviously, the linebackers, all of them. And I think and I said this last week when talking about Josh Allen and his scrambling abilities. What about Jaden Hicks, a young safety who's got some good speed and is a hard hitter? I think Jaden Hicks is someone that might get much more involved in this type of football game here. So I'm curious to see how this Chiefs defense, with their linebackers and maybe a guy like Jaden Hicks who could play some hybrid safety, how do they approach this game and prepare for Saquon Barkley? I'm very curious to see that. Does it have to be a question about the Chiefs? Hey, Cole, this is the Red Friday Live Chat. You can ask whatever you want. We have gone out of bounds many times on the Red Friday Live Chat. We have talked about barbecue. We've talked about movies and TV. We've talked about video games. We have gone off the rails before on the Red Friday Live Chat. Anything and everything is fair game. Jermaine says, never thought we'd get to the AFC Championship game, let alone win it. Listen to you a lot while I'm driving at work. Thank you, Jermaine. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know it's a lot of people like to listen to podcasts and whatnot when they're out and about driving, or even at work sometimes. I definitely appreciate all of you guys who make me part of your day, whether you're at work, at home, at the gym. Some people are at the grocery store. They've got their AirPods on and they're listening to a podcast. However you guys consume the podcast and the live streams, that means a lot. So thank you guys. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I gotta stuff a lot of holes for sure, James. I mean, don't take his legs out. Don't want to do that, but it's gonna be It's going to be a challenge for sure. So is Mitch Holthus broadcasting the Super Bowl on any channel? On the radio, it's an Odyssey station. I don't remember. It used to be a 101 The Fox, but they moved that. I think it's 106.5 The Wolf now. Don't quote me on that. I don't listen to games on the radio. I'm always on watching and listening on TV. Yeah, Justin Reed. Yeah, he's going to be very important in this game too. And give credit to Justin Reed because, and I can't remember who the receiver was. I think it was Khalil Shakir, who was moving in motion across the field on offense before the snap. Justin Reed read him like a book. Josh Allen immediately threw the ball to Shakir, and Reed was ready for it. That is called studying game film. Steve Spagnuolo had that ready, showed it to his defense, and said, hey, Justin, you're going to be the guy responsible for this safety or for this player here. And Justin Reed was all over it. All over it. Loved it. He'll be lucky to rush for 65 yards. I think I think he's going to get close to the 100 mark. I really do. I think he'll have the most rushing yards by a running back. The most was last week, I believe, wasn't it? Didn't James Cook get 88 yards? Or was that the week before with Joe Mixon? James Cook rushed for 85 yards. What did Mixon run for? Wasn't it 88? Or very close to it? Yeah, Mixon rushed for 88 yards. That's the most by a running back this year. I mean, the Chiefs have not allowed a lot of running backs to run wild on them this year. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be another big challenge for Spags. And listen, Spags was stopped that mighty Patriots team back in 2007. And that was a huge deal when Spags first got hired by the Chiefs. It's like, wait, he did that before? He can clearly do it again. And you heard Tom Brady on a broadcast this year. It was the Chiefs 49ers game where he was like, yeah, that guy's the bane of my existence. Because he prevented them from going 19-0, essentially. That Giants defense played a big role in that. And then Eli and the offense, they had that miracle drive as their game winner there. Yeah, Washington played a really poor game. The 3 turnovers certainly did not help, but the missed tackles, yeah, that was really bad. And I know that was a big deal for Buffalo's defense too. So Kansas City's defense, they've done a good job, a much better job this year with their tackling, this year and last year, compared to years past. The Chiefs just historically, I mean, there are a lot of seasons where you can point out where the tackling has been an issue in Kansas City. The Chiefs historically just have not been a great run-stopping defense on a consistent basis. This has to be one of the best run-stopping groups you've seen in a while. And listen, Chris Jones, he's great, obviously. Trent McDuffie, very good. Well, I know he was not all-pro, but he wasn't forgotten about. The guy still got some votes. Nick Bolton and Leo Chenal got a couple of votes for all-pro. But in general, when you look at this Chiefs defense, outside of the names I mentioned, Chris Jones and Trent McDuffie, there really are not any superstar names on this defense. You have top tier players in Jones and McDuffie, and I think Bolton, some of you guys might debate, is on that list of top tier players at their positions. But everyone else, it's like a lot of the other guys are second tier guys. And I'm not saying that as an insult. It's just they find a way to come together. Listen, we've seen it in years past where the Chiefs have a lot of top tier players at different positions, but they don't play well as a unit. There's a difference in that. So it is refreshing to see this Chiefs defense play the way they are and not necessarily having superstar players at every position across the board on that defense. Yeah, I think that's more likely, Ian, for sure. When you go live, if you start with at everyone, it tags your followers. Yes, I'm aware of that, Mickey, but I love how you call me fanzine with an E at the end. Here's what I've learned. I have never tagged the everyone. I know you can at everyone, all of your followers, and you can also do top fans. Here's what I do know. I know a lot of people do not like being tagged like that. So I've avoided you. Do you guys like being tagged by a Facebook page with the at everyone tag? I don't know. I just whenever I get tagged and stuff like that, I got kind of find it annoying. Like if I follow you, I will see your comment or your post rather. I don't need you to tag me to let me know that you posted. So I've avoided using that because I think that annoys the hell out of people, but that's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about all of that. Monica says, we hate the Commanders. This team will be ready for our coaching is better, and we got some dogs on our deal. Yeah, yeah, certainly. I mean, the coaches certainly have been a big part this year. They really have. Well, he's not old. I never said he was old. I mean, he said he was 30. Not young, but not old either. That's what I said, Laurel. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, if you can find a way to shut down Saquon, and the odds of that are extremely slim, this might get ugly. Like the amount of pressure put on Saquon Barkley, not really the best. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts has been terrible, but he's not playing at the level he was a couple of years ago when he was an MVP candidate. Yeah, they definitely have, Lauren. That's the optimism I'm kind of riding with going in. And listen, I said in the regular season, I said this many times on the podcast. I said I would love for the Chiefs to play the Eagles because, in my opinion, Saquon Barkley is not just the best running back; he's the MVP this year. He's the best player this year. He's probably going to end up with Offensive Player of the Year. We'll find out in a week, less than a week. But I've been very curious for a long time to see how the Chiefs match up against Saquon because they've done so great against a lot of top tier running backs. Derrick Henry, Dobbins, the running back from the Panthers. His name escapes my mind right now. Geez, I can't remember. I'm looking it up right now as I speak. Oh, he got injured. The running back for there was a running back that was like consistently in the top 5 or top 10 in rushing yards. Who was it? No, not Jonathan Brooks. He got injured. Anyway, the Chiefs have gone up against a lot of top 5, top 10 running backs. Alvin Kamara is another player, and the Chiefs have stood up to all of them this year. Aaron says it absolutely sucks. Yeah, I agree. And because of bad purposes. We were 10 feet away, never will go back. It will cost us now for that jerks. Yeah. And like I said earlier, it just takes a couple shitheads really to ruin it for the rest of the bunch. Fair or not, that's kind of how it goes. It just takes one bad incident by one or two bad people to make these kinds of drastic changes. And again, I understand people not being a big fan of it, but that's kind of how it works. What do you feel is the best strategy to stop Saquon? I think you kind of have to treat it like a 3-4 defense, where in a 3-4 defense, a defensive end's primary goal is to kind of occupy the offensive tackle, because if they can do that, that allows the outside linebackers to get to the quarterback more. So kind of do something similar where the defensive line can kind of occupy an offensive lineman. Now, be ready because they'll definitely have tight ends and fullbacks blocking for them. That's where those linebackers have to, kind of what we were saying earlier, plug those holes and not let Saquon go for a big gain there. And if the defensive line and the linebackers get beat, those defensive backs, they better be ready, because they will be the last line of defense, and they're the only ones with that speed that can catch up to a guy like Saquon, or not, maybe not catch up, but at least try to prevent a big run there. So that's what's going to be very important in this game. And you've been challenged this year by a couple of running backs in the playoffs with James Cook and Joe Mixon, both of them running for more than 80 yards. It's rigged, so we already know who's winning. Yeah, Monica, obviously Monica being sarcastic there. It's funny to me that people keep saying this, but they still watch. I know there's this whole boycott the Super Bowl thing. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure you're really boycotting. Yeah. Why aren't you betting on these games? I the Eagles run it differently than the Bills, but if they found a way to stop it against the Bills, and obviously the way Josh Allen loved to do it was going to the left because their right guard's not very good. I'm sure Spags will figure out that secret with Jalen Hurts. They struggled with that 2 years ago. Can they be better about it this time? Run heavy, blitz on push tush. That's how we're stopping it, Leon says. Gang violence, supposedly, we never got an answer other than Quentin Lucas lied about their age to protect their identity. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, aren't those people minors? And again, like the details to this are very vague. I mean, when you see a shooting in this country, the details come out pretty quickly, it feels like. This one just kind of was forgotten about. Like, oh, parade happened. Okay. All right. And the incident. Okay. Like, we hardly got details about what happened or why it happened. And no one's asking the tough questions to the mayor or any of the other city leaders. Mahomes is 14-0 in dome stadiums and 8-0 against Fangio's defense. Is okay. So the 14-0 I can believe because the Chiefs have never lost at Allegiant. They've never lost at SoFi. They obviously won at State Farm last year. Or not last year, 2 years ago. The Super Bowl loss was at Tampa. That's an open stadium. Is Mahomes really 14-0 in domed games? They won at Minnesota last year. What other dome stadiums? No, that's not correct. Didn't the Chiefs lose in Indianapolis? Like, are we sure he's 14-0? Because they lost at Indy a couple of years ago at their stadium. So I have to throw a red challenge flag on that one there. Now 8-0 against Fangio's defenses. I mean, wasn't Fangio in Denver for a long time? So that would make sense. Okay, but Ephraim, vehicles, I mean, their primary purpose is not to hurt people. It's used for transportation. I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, we've seen people use vehicles as a weapon, but that's not the primary purpose of a vehicle. You can't say the same thing about a gun. Halftime performance, yay or nay? Now we're just talking the performance. We're not talking the entire halftime period. That's got to be under, Raymond. I think that's the 30 number. I mean, it's got to be under 30. The parade hung with me for a long time. I had many trainings on active shooter and am thankful for, but will never go again. Yeah, but I mean, the amount of like I know schools do code red trainings. I remember doing that when I was in school. I mean, I'm sure they take that far more seriously now, given the state of things and what happens at school sometimes, unfortunately. But there's not any amount of training that could prepare you from being in a large crowd like that. Um, how are you liking that SmackDown versus Raw? Are you talking about SmackDown Here Comes the Pain? I don't know if I mentioned this, but I actually got my hands on SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, and I wanted to make someone a little obscure like Rhino because I love when he does the gore, but it is just terribly executed in the game. I suck at wrestling, so I mean I haven't played them a long time. I do have SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. That is a really good game because the season mode is really good. I have a cage match against Eric Bischoff with Rhino. Shouldn't be too hard to win. No, Terry, thank you. I appreciate you. If it wasn't for people like you and everyone else, I would not be able to really speak to anyone. It would just be me by myself. Anyone else turn down the TV volume and turn up your Bluetooth on the radio to sync up like me? I've tried that in the past. The radio feed, first of all, a lot of people don't realize this. Radio and TV, they have a dump button, a delay little deal. But whenever there's a live sporting event, they turn off the dump button. So they're ahead 8 more seconds than what they'd like to be, whereas TV does not have that kind of luxury. So the radio feed, from my experience, has always been way ahead. I know some people try to sync them up. I suppose if you have Sirius XM, if you have like the premium subscription, you can listen to all the NFL games on the radio, so you can get Mitch Holtis. And I suppose you can maybe as you mentioned, Steven, use a Bluetooth speaker, connect your phone to that radio, or however you want to connect your Sirius XM app, and then you can just pause your TV up until you notice that they're synced up. Kind of difficult to do because you don't know exactly where on the radio. I suppose it might take a couple of plays to figure that out, but I guess that's one way to do it. If you're using like an actual radio, that's difficult to do because radio is always going to be ahead of TV. And to hear the play before you see it would be just frustrating and annoying for me. See, the question earlier, someone was asking, does it have to be Chiefs related? Hell no. Because look at a question like this. I will field this question all day long. Who is winning the Royal Rumble, men's or women's? Women's, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Becky Lynch wins the Rumble. I have been waiting for a long time to see Becky Lynch come back. I don't know what her contract situation is right now, but I would love for it to be Becky Lynch. As far as the men's Royal Rumble, this feels like it kind of feels very open. Like the way they're promoting Sami Zayn and CM Punk and everybody else, it seems like they're really putting everyone in this weird bubble here where they're all in position to be able to win the Royal Rumble. Because I think most years, they kind of do a good job of, like Roman Reigns, again, another guy, but they do a good job of kind of making it seem obvious who are like the 2 or 3 guys that could win the Royal Rumble. I feel like CM Punk, especially with his return still feeling surreal, because nobody thought he would ever come back to the WWE, and I think the WWE kind of wants to make it up to him because of the shit that just went down in the past, and he's never main evented a WrestleMania before. So I just feel like it's CM Punk's time to win. My second prediction would be Sami Zayn. I don't know. This is going to be a fun Royal Rumble. I'm excited. And I heard Stephanie McMahon on Pat McAfee's show. She mentioned that there are going to be some surprises. I remember back, it felt like back in the day they had lots of surprises. Like I was just watching on YouTube the other day. Drew Carey was in the Royal Rumble one year. Remember that one? Unpopular opinion, maybe it's popular. I like the Royal Rumble better than WrestleMania. I would love for the Chiefs to get a brand new stadium. I know that's a very touchy subject, and I hope they get a Royal Rumble because I will 1000% be there. I will get the closest seat possible I can get. Love seeing Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey get their annual beers from stadium concessions. I did see that. That wasn't a stadium concession necessarily. That's like, so for those who don't know, the Chiefs will exit the locker room, and if you turn to your left, you got the elevators that goes up to the media press box and whatnot, other suites in the stadium. But if you turn to your right, that is the tunnel behind the Chiefs sideline. There are 2 tunnels. I mean, one of them's not really a tunnel, but you know what I mean. One of them is behind the Chiefs sidelines where I go to the locker room. But then they created like this little area in front of the locker room. It's like a lounge area. I mean, you're not watching the game in person. You're watching through a TV. I don't know why anyone would spend money to go there, but I guess people like to go there. That's where Creed and Trey went to get their beers. So that was pretty fun to see. Pressure on Hurts is key. Yeah, well, I mean, who knows how often they're going to pass? I mean, I know that they don't want to make it obvious, but part of me wonders if they're going to go run heavy anyway. Yeah, exactly, Timothy. They're all going to watch. You don't, Gwen, you do not get to say this on January the 31st ever. That is a very rare thing. And listen, Philadelphia, I mean, it seems like they're pretty healthy. I know Brandon Graham, he's expected to play. Jalen Hurts is kind of dealing with something, but with the bye week this week, it kind of helps everybody. But the Chiefs, I mean, you have Rashee Rice who's on IR, and you have McCole Hardman, who was not able to come back from IR. And then you have Sky Moore, who is designated to return. Woohoo. I mean, other than that, you have everyone else available. That is extremely rare this late into the season. Very, very rare. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how they've worked it all year long. They did not need to score 30 until they absolutely had to. Or 31, rather. 32, actually. No, Norman, I'm with you. I am with you. I usually hate being tagged, but I like to know when you're live. Well, I appreciate that, Marianne. No notification. I catch you live scrolling. Okay. Yeah. I just feel like whenever a page uses the @everyone tag, it just feels annoying. That's why I know a lot of you guys, a majority of my followers are on Facebook, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to get the YouTube numbers up, and I will say this about YouTube. I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. If you're subscribed on YouTube and if you turn on the bell notification, you will get a notification when I go live. So you can get the YouTube notification, but if you prefer to watch through Facebook, you can watch through Facebook. I know the beauty of watching through YouTube is that you can I'll just use my YouTube right here as an example. So if you're so for example, we'll just do this. We have an advertise here. I can skip that in 2 seconds. There we go. So here is the franchise on YouTube. That is from the Chiefs YouTube page. I can scroll up. Oh, maybe not. Hold on. Let me turn down the volume here. And I can't show it for too long because there's copyright restrictions there. But if I were to do that kind of thing, you can still have it. See how it's right there on the side? And then you can, do whatever else you want to do on your phone. As you can see, I have a shit ton of apps. Maybe that's normal, maybe not. But I can be like in the background of your phone through YouTube. And then you guys can still, go through Twitter or Facebook or whatever else it is. Hubbard, thank you guys. That's the name I was forgetting about. And again, if you don't like to watch through YouTube, fine. You can just be notified through YouTube. I just don't think there's a way to notify people through Facebook. And maybe they can fix that one day. Maybe they don't. Here's a weird thing. With Facebook, their analytics, I mean, I'll pay attention to the numbers, but I've noticed recently their numbers are not accurate. Because according to them, I've been losing tens and thousands of followers lately. And that is not accurate. No way. The followers are going up. That is easy to track. The views are easy to track. And I know the numbers are up on everything, especially this football season. They've been higher than they've ever been before. But their numbers are telling me that I'm losing followers. And I can assure you that's not the case. We've had very close to 4,000 new followers just since the AFC title game alone. So I don't know how they have their numbers set up the way they do, but it's not given the correct numbers. Todd says, what up, Fars? I think we can stop him if he runs between the tackles. That's what a lot of good running backs like to do. I mean, Saquon's a guy who can attack all kind of holds, A gap, B gap, however else, in so many different ways. It's just that the Chiefs have to be ready. And I think those linebackers, like we've been saying a couple of times already, they've got to fill those gaps right there and not allow them to run free. Because the Chiefs have some good tacklers on that defense. But if he were to shed off a tackler, a defender, well, it's going to slow his momentum down a little bit. So you got to be very quick if you're another defensive player to close in and wrap up and not allow him to run for a big gain. Yeah, that's certainly something. The Chiefs are going to be they're going to have to be ready for a lot of things in this one here. Because if they run well, that is going to open up Jalen Hurts scrambling and also the passing game. I know that has not been their bread and butter this year like it has been in past years, but that is something that can certainly play a factor for sure. Washington's defense wasn't all that great, not like the Chiefs at all. No. So I'm very curious to see what the Chiefs do to attack Saquon in this one. Oh yeah, for sure. And the Chiefs, they don't have a lot of design runs for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they have them in the playbook, they just haven't used them often. And when they use them against the Bills, that surprised the hell out of the Bills. Who was it? I think it was Greg Russo. He said after the game, he said, look, the Chiefs did some things that were not on film at all this year. And this goes back to what I talked about on the podcast earlier this week with Andy Reid. He has held some plays back. And maybe that's why the Chiefs are not blowing teams out like everyone wants them to be, so they can prove themselves. There are levels to this, man. Andy Reid, I mean, other teams will think one step ahead or one step at a time. Andy Reid is 5 steps ahead of you playing 3D, 4D chess. Yeah, I mean, if you can handle a guy like Derrick Henry, which the Chiefs have done a couple of times now, they did it in the AFC Championship game a few years ago as well. That was when Spags' first year with the Chiefs. Yeah. Saquon is a different animal, though. Like, and don't get me wrong, Derrick Henry is amazing. A lot of people just kind of wrote him off in the offseason, said he's washed up. I disagree. I don't know why people thought that, because he was second in rushing last year. But Saquon was just better. I think if you're looking at tiers, it's kind of like the quarterback position where Mahomes is in a category all by himself. Saquon right now is in a category by himself at the running back position. I don't think you can. Maybe you can make a case for Derrick Henry, and I'm a massive fan of Derrick Henry. So maybe I could make a case as to why he belongs in tier 1 of running backs. But that's it. You can't really put many other guys on there right now. I am going to laugh if that is going to be the most watched Super Bowl ever. Look, this better be the lowest rated Super Bowl because of all the alleged boycotting. I mean, just wait. The amount of people, and you know what they're going to say. Trust me. I'm telling you right now. The same people who are claiming to boycott are going to say, "Oh, there are more Swifties who watched this time." I guarantee you that's going to be their explanation for the viewership. What's the deal with Sky Moore to be put in his 21-day window? Yeah, the timing of it is odd, for sure. Listen, Sky Moore's only touchdown catch of his career was against the Eagles 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. So I don't know. And he perfectly executed the corn dog play. So who knows? Maybe they run it again. We'll see. In all seriousness, I mean, I don't know. I feel like your wide receivers are fine. Because if Sky Moore comes back, who are you cutting? And boy, how shitty would it be? I mean, it's happened before. I know the Patriots did it with Malcolm Butler one time. To be cut 2 days before the Super Bowl, that fucking sucks. Because you're preparing, the entire 2-week period for it. And then 48 hours before, they're like, hey, Timothy, we're cutting you. It's like, what? Who would they cut? My guess would be either Nico Remigio or Carson Steele. Carson Steele has not, outside of the Broncos game, where the Chiefs put in all their backups, Carson Steele has not touched the ball for you. He's played, but he hasn't touched the ball much. Nico Remigio has shown some things on special teams recently. He had that big kickoff return to open up the Texans game, and then he had the big 41-yard punt return against the Bills last week. I would guess the guy you'd cut would be Carson Steele. That's my guess. But I don't know. Did they? Okay, I don't know. I was hanging out with the guys from KCMO Radio today. You guys know Mark Van Sickle. He's done many podcasts with me. He's a producer for them. I finally got to go visit the KCMO studios, by the way. Met their morning host and program director, Pete Mundo, excuse me. Also met Kevin Keatsman. I've met Kevin Keatsman before. I know a lot of people have opinions about him. I understand. I'll leave it at that. But I was talking to Mark about it, and he was like, "Yeah, they're minors." So I listen again. The details on that are vague. So I don't know. The Colts game had the roof open. Okay, I'll take your word for it, William. So I think it was Blake who commented. Okay, Blake, I apologize if for doubting you. If that was the case, if the roof was open, why would I did not know the Colts roof could open? Well, I enter the Royal Rumble. Do you want me? Do you want to watch me get my ass kicked? No, you probably you guys would probably get a lot of enjoyment from that. 8-0 against it. Okay, all right. I didn't realize that. Oh, that would certainly make sense. I mean, that's 2 wins from last year, if that was the case. Yeah, you got some backup on that one there, Blake. When does the Super Bowl face-off start? Monday night. Isn't that when they have their media night? I love the media night stuff. I'm not a member of the media anymore. I mean, I left a long time ago. But I know all of these sports teams and leagues, they're more open to podcasters now. I would love to be present at Radio Row just one time. I know it's probably a clusterfuck, but it looks like a lot of fun. You see all these celebrities there. I'm a big UFC fan. I remember a couple of years ago, there were 2 fighters, Jorge Masvidal, and I think the other guy was Kamaru Usman. They almost got into it at Media Week. So yeah, I'm just behind on the comments here. I mean, see, this comment is from 6:57 and it's 7:13 right now. So do you guys see the time on your end? No, you guys can't see the time. So yeah, I'm obviously behind because I start off with my opening statement, my thoughts, and then I turn it over to you guys. I try to go in order. And like I've said many times before, because I've gotten comments from people, hey, why do you never respond to me on Facebook, whatever? I mean, I can't read every single comment as much as I'd love to, and I appreciate all the comments, good or negative. That's why I do the Red Friday live chat. That is one more conducive to me going through all the comments. I mean, I'll obviously skip some comments if it's just, hey, go Chiefs, like that kind of thing. And again, I appreciate that. Please don't get me wrong, but I definitely do want to stick to the relevant questions and comments for sure. The key to the game is to score points on every possession, get a lead. That's what they did in the second half when they met 2 years ago. They scored a touchdown on every single drive except for the last one, which they could have easily done because they got the first down. And I know people were like, oh, well, the Eagles were letting them score. Well, I'm sure the Chiefs would have gotten in if they wanted to anyway. So the Chiefs scored on every single drive in the second half 2 years ago. They've got to be much more consistent about it. Nobody watches the halftime show anymore. They're all bad since the Jacks. I don't know about that, Timothy. The one from Bengals Rams 56, that one was pretty damn good. I'll be honest, guys. Whenever the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, I cannot focus. I do not give a shit about the halftime show or the commercials. I'm just too busy invested in the game. Like I do not focus on the commercials or any of that stuff. This is one of the weird things about seeing the Chiefs in a lot of Super Bowls now. You realize you do not give a damn about the commercials or the halftime show. I mean, you actually care about the game, and that's all you give a damn about. That's the only reason why you're watching them. Yeah, there are a lot of casuals out there, maybe people who don't watch football that don't care about the outcome and they just want to see the commercials and the hoopla that goes with all the things with the Super Bowl. But if your team's in it, man, you're invested as hell. They should do the parade and the ceremony. Still do the parade and the ceremony after. No reason you can't set up like the draft, allow 2 access points with metal detectors. This is actually a really good point, Allison. I have not seen anyone really point this out, and maybe somebody has, and I just haven't seen it. But yeah, isn't that how they set up the draft? And I know for the parade, the rally specifically, I mean, there are people who show up really, really, really early. So I don't know if there's a way you can work around that. I don't know. I do know for the draft that the setup for the draft was a long process. It's not like they just did it within a couple days. That was a big project there. So I don't know. I don't know if you can do that in a timely manner. Like, let's say Monday morning, can you set up all the barriers for something like that? I don't know. I mean, listen, I suppose you have the funds to do it. Because here's the thing, and not to get too off topic, I know for years our government has told us, hey, we don't have the funds to help these schools in inner cities. But during the pandemic, we had a lot of money to spend, more trillions of dollars on COVID relief. And I'm not pushing against that. But suddenly we had the funds to do something. And not to mention all the money that's been sent to Ukraine. I know a lot of people have their opinions about that. But my point is, we have the funds to do those kinds of things. So I suppose it's possible. Best wrestling video game to me, N64. See, I never played any of the WCW games. I've heard that is very, very good. The N64 WWF games were awesome. No Mercy and WrestleMania. The PlayStation 2 era of wrestling games, they were good. I've tried to get into the recent stuff. Ever since they got away from THQ, it's gotten worse. The story, there's no like actual season mode. The storylines are just not the same. I know it's a touchy subject, but when do we expect an update on plans for Arrowhead or moving to Kansas? That's a really good question, Blake, because we're in the year 2025 and 2031. If you're going to build a new stadium, that needs to start the whole idea behind it needs to start soon. And I know Clark kind of said we would like to conclude this whole thing in 2025. Yeah, this whole discussion needs to be wrapped up by the summertime. If we do not have an answer by the time the preseason starts, I have questions. I have a lot of questions because at that point, I don't know if you can realistically be serious about building a brand new stadium. You probably have to think more about renovations because building a stadium takes some time. I mean, especially if you want to do it right. Cena going to win the men's rumble? I don't think he's going to win the men's rumble. I think he will get one more title. I don't think he's going to do it by way of the Royal Rumble, though. I don't think the Chiefs are worried about Saquon Barkley. The 49ers falsely claimed that Kittle would walk all over the Chiefs. Oh, remember that one. I mean, that's a good point, though, Paul. Like the best players that the Chiefs have faced on the 49ers twice, what has he done in those games? Yeah. That's and again, Josh Allen, the Chiefs found a way to stop Josh Allen last week. Especially with the tush push. So yeah, that's a really good point by you, Paul, for sure. Yeah, I got you. Eagles fans claim that Jalen Hurts was unstoppable 2 years ago. They failed on that as well. Well, I mean, listen, he had a great game. I know a lot of people love to make a huge deal about how well he played. And listen, he played great. You know what I find? I love when people are like, oh, Josh Allen played amazing in the 13-second game. Jalen Hurts, he played way better than Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's like, okay, but who won? I mean, I still remember the days of the Chiefs offense in the Dick Vermeil era putting up great numbers, but not winning sometimes. I mean, listen, those numbers are great for the Pro Bowl. And I know this guy's not the general manager now, and he didn't last long as a GM, but Scott Pioli said, great players make the Pro Bowl and great teams make the Super Bowl. And that's a guy who came from the Patriots organization. So he knows that better than everyone else. And remember, Brandon Daly, the defensive line coach, And I know Brady shouted him out in one of the games because he knows Brandon Daly on a personal level from his time in New England. Daly was talking to the media once, and he says that he appreciates the team that he's with now because he's been on teams in the past where players were bitching about not getting the stats they wanted to get. And that's not been the case this year because Chris Jones is not getting the stats that a lot of people thought he was going to get. He's playing great, but statistically, they're not showing up. Like, you did not have anyone on defense statistically dominate this year, but they're playing really, really well as a unit. And that's what really matters. And listen, I would have loved for Chris Jones to have a monster season. I know he mentioned 20 sacks, didn't even come close to it, but he's about to three-peat, and I think that's all anyone really gives a damn about, including Chris Jones himself. This is my thing, Timothy. The Chiefs did that last week. They were up by 11, and Buffalo scored a touchdown right before halftime. There was a false start there that they missed, but God forbid anyone talks about the Chiefs' opponents getting away with something. And then the Chiefs went 3 and out. Was it 3 and out, or was it just a short drive? They didn't score after halftime when they got the ball first, and Buffalo took the lead. So, yeah, being up by 2 scores is going to be key because that's how you nullify. That's another way of stopping Saquon Barkley. Your defense doesn't do anything directly to Saquon Barkley. In a weird way, it's your offense that kind of stops Saquon Barkley. So, yeah, that kind of thing is huge for sure. That's an underrated factor for sure. Lead that charge, Noah. Please do. I would be like Pat McAfee last year when Omos was in there and he saw him. He's like, fuck this, I'm leaving. I know Pat McAfee was like a backup plan because of Brock Lesnar. By the way, didn't the Brock Lesnar thing kind of get resolved? Could Brock Lesnar come back tomorrow? I've always been a big fan of Lesnar. He even seems like he's loosened up more. I remember Chael Sonnen from the UFC was doing a Q&A once, and he was asked by a kid. He goes, is Brock Lesnar a people person? Of all questions, and from a kid. Did you see the talks on Josh versus Pat swapping locations? Okay, I have seen this, Raymond. Yes. You know what Bengals fans always come back with whenever people say Patrick is better than Burrow and Patrick has more rings and Burrow has none? I see a lot of Bengals fans who are like, well, if Joe Burrow had Andy Reid, he'd have more Super Bowl rings. Okay. Like, and Raymond, you're asking for my opinion. Here's my opinion. We do not live in that universe. I don't know why so many people spend so much time playing pretend football where they're like, oh, well, if the Chiefs and Bills swapped quarterbacks, Patrick would have no Super Bowls and the Bills would have, who cares? That's not what are we having that discussion for? What does that do? Okay, so if things went if the scenarios were different, but they're not. Because I see a lot of times, a lot of Chiefs haters, they're like, well, if his toe was not out of bounds and if he didn't interfere and if they didn't block the field goal, but they did, those things all happened. So I don't know, when people get all serious about wanting to discuss if these players flipped teams or flipped quarterbacks, it's like, I don't know, man. What is the purpose of that discussion? I've never been a big fan of those kinds of conversations. I mean, I suppose they're fun to have in like the off season, but I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of those types of conversations. A lot of people are, not me. Yeah, and they were up 10-0 in that game at one point. So they were up by 10 on 2 different occasions. What would his wrestling name be, though? Finishing move could be the far side. Oh, geez. See, I would not want my finishing move to be anything like difficult. I probably would do the frog splash because that's cool, though it would probably hurt sometimes, especially if like your opponent has like a chair they put right in front of you. Rob Van Dam's taking a lot of chair shots while doing a frog splash. I suppose my name could be the Big F. I like the fast offensive pace the Chiefs had going. Yes. First inning of the, I think you meant first drive. Yeah. They did look very fast in that game for sure. Oh, of course, Chris. You know that. We all know that. Yeah, they're going to threaten not to watch, but they will. They absolutely will. We've been on for an hour and 10 minutes. I don't believe that. Time goes by fast when you're having fun. Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately how it works. Just one or two bad incidents by idiots kind of ruins it for the rest. It's sad, but that's what happens. Yeah. And again, like people made such a big deal about the Chiefs not blowing teams out. Okay, because people compared the Chiefs and Lions because they both got the number one seed. They were both number one for a majority of the season as the season went on. I think all year long, the Chiefs and Lions were number one in their conferences. But everyone kept saying, well, unlike the Chiefs, the Lions blow teams out. Okay, well, the Lions were one and done and got blown out in the playoffs. So it's like, the Chiefs know what they're doing. It might not look pretty at times, but they figured out how to raise the bar when they needed to the most. Carson came into your bar. That's awesome. You'd rather Justin Ross over Sky Moore? Yeah. I don't think a lot of people disagree. Less of more. Oh, Robert, you've got a way with words, Robert. Yeah, I love when people are like blaming Taylor Swift. So you're essentially saying your team lost to a girl. Is that what people are saying? Do I have that right? Yeah, I so on the PS5, they give you like 3 free games a month, and WWE 24 was one of them recently. So I took advantage and downloaded that. I don't know. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I love the roster. The roster is great on there, but it is. I mean, the game is just different. And no, I can appreciate the realism because, like in the PS2 games, Rey Mysterio can do a suplex on the Big Show like it's nothing. So can the Divas. But I don't know. The game is it's too difficult for me. All right. Listen, I'm not the best with video games. Okay. Look, I'll be honest. You guys know I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. On the PS1, I still have the disc that lets you like turn on infinite health and all that shit. Listen, I like to have fun when I play video games. Those Final Fantasy games are pretty fucking hard. Okay. So I like to, because here's my thing. The video games I play are like the ones that have great stories, like Final Fantasy, The Last of Us. I think the Grand Theft Auto games are great too, storyline wise. A lot of people have told me about God of War, and I will get into that, especially since there's a TV series on it coming up, kind of like The Last of Us. So I definitely want to get into that. I'm behind on Final Fantasy 14. I gotta do it. Wait, what? Deion Dawkins picked the Chiefs as one of the worst teams they play, and the other Bills player said, "Oh, I know why you put that. It was a trivia thing they did." Oh, okay. There was a Bengals podcaster, and Bengals fans, I know you all follow me. Hopefully, you guys have better options for Bengals podcasts out there. There was a Bengals podcaster who told me that if the Bengals had Orlando Brown 2 seasons sooner, then that Joe Burrow would have more rings than Patrick Mahomes. The Bengals have had Orlando Brown for 2 years, and both of those years they've missed the playoffs. And I don't want to hear all this crap about, oh, Burrow was injured for half the season the year before. They finished 9-8 when Burrow missed half a season, and they finished 9-8 when Burrow led the league in everything. I know the defense was not great, but Burrow did not step up in situational matters. He didn't. A lot of the close games, the Bengals did not win. And I know, again, to go back to the earlier question, I think it was from Raymond about hypothetical scenarios. If these quarterbacks switch teams, I saw a Bengals fan put together a list of NFL standings, and they flipped the record of every team, their win-loss record of one-score games, and the Chiefs had like the worst record in the NFL, and the Bengals had the best. Is that a flex? Like, what is this? What hypothetical fantasy football what world do you live in? Like, unless you're the Avengers and you want to go through that alternate universe, sure, but that does not exist. Like, again, people want to go through those hypothetical scenarios that doesn't even, those don't even matter. My favorite game on Twitter is guys who have screenshots of all the Chiefs missed calls, but never have any of the opponent. Yeah. And I love when people are like, oh, the Chiefs had 0 holding penalties in the Super Bowl last year. So did the 49ers, but you don't care about that. I love when they do that stuff. I'm with you, Anthony. I think it's funny when they do that stuff. I always answer back to all the crybabies that the Chiefs are paying the rest. If that's the case, why isn't your team paying them? My response, Sharon, is why are you not betting on the games? Nobody has an answer for that shit. Nobody. Yeah, Angela. They're going to keep bitching about it, but they'll still watch. Like, that's a really exhausting way to watch sports. You know it's rigged, allegedly, but you're going to watch anyway? Come on, make it make sense. Do you think Jerry Jones was purposely tanking seasons to get Archie Manning? I don't know. I mean, listen, the Cowboys are a mess. Is it worth it to tank for anyone? I mean, listen, I remember a lot of people, me included, thought it was worth it to tank for Andrew Luck. And don't get me wrong, Andrew Luck was awesome, but his career was cut short unexpectedly. In fact, the two quarterbacks in that draft class, Andrew Luck and RG3, they were supposed to run the league for a very long time. And I don't think either one of them played 10 years. And the best player in that draft, wasn't the best player in that draft Russell Wilson? Was Russell Wilson the same year as I mean, I know Russell Wilson's not playing good football now. Yeah. Wait. 2012. Yeah, 2012. I mean, Russell Wilson's not playing well right now, but he's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's been to the playoffs. Like, I don't know. Lori, you will get that answer next Wednesday. Great question, but you'll get it next Wednesday. Yeah, bet on the money line. That's what I keep telling people. Like, bet on the money line. But to answer your question, Raymond, I mean, maybe he is, but I don't think it's ever worth it to tank for anyone. I thought, you just never know who's going to be the better quarterback in any of these draft classes. I thought Deshaun Watson was the solution over Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, we know that's not even close. So I don't know. Oh, the Attitude Era was beautiful. It was great, man. Plus the whole like PG thing. Here's what confuses me. Like on Netflix, The Rock dropped the words fucking shit on there. But they bleeped it. From what I've heard, they bleeped it on the archived version. That makes no sense. Like, come on, man. Let's not do this whole PG thing and we want to be kid friendly. Dude, kids today, they have access to explicit lyrics. They play video games with bad language. Dude, I remember playing Grand Theft Auto once, and I never put on a headset and talk to people because that's just weird. Unless I'm playing with people I actually know personally. But I'll hear kids put on their microphones, and they know every word in the book. Yeah, WWE on the PS2, those games were great. I agree. I'd rather Remigio over Sky. I agree. And I'm going to do a speed round here. Witchcraft and voodoo. Yes. That's what it really is. Remember going around, whoever had Eagles flags out bombarding them with eggs can't do that anymore. That shit's expensive. What are you talking about, Efrain? Yeah, so people have told me that I can start with the PS4 God of War and then play the PS5. I'd rather play it in order with the PS2 games. Now on the PS5, what's nice is you can purchase older games or get them for free if you have like the PS5, whatever the bundle is called, the subscription. So I do have the older God of War games, and I will play them. Another game that on the graphic wise that looks great, and I hope the story is great, is Horizon. There are two Horizon games, if I'm not mistaken. Forbidden West is one of them. Horizon games. Zero Dawn is the other. Zero Dawn was on the PS4, and Forbidden West was on the PS5. So I will play those. The graphics look great, and I've heard great things about the game. So I'm gonna give that a try sometime. I love when spam risk calls. Should I answer this number? I almost put this number on the screen. I'm not really allowed to do that. I just want to answer this so badly and mess with them. But I feel like if I answer it, 10 other spam networks will be like, oh, this number is active. Let's call this person. Madden players. Yes, that's what it is. Madden. You can have that scenario in Madden all you want. Yeah. Our defense was bad when we won the first Super Bowl. I don't know if bad's the right word. It definitely, I mean, Spags was taking over for that was his first year taking over for Bob Sutton. So the defense was still a work in progress. Yes. The defense was not what Spags wanted it to be at the time. But boy, they stepped up when they had to in that Super Bowl and in the game before in the AFC title game. Explain to me how my Chiefs are going to stop Barkley. Elaine, you probably tuned in later, but we did discuss earlier, and I'll give you the short version of it. I think the defensive line, they definitely need to win the battle at the line of scrimmage and not let any of the offensive linemen beat them. And the linebackers have to plug those holes wherever Saquon attacks. That is going to be the big cue there. Easier said than done, but that's the long story short answer for you. Yeah, I'm going to get out of here real soon, so I need to answer a few more of these pretty quickly. The story of God of War is amazing. Final Fantasy has struggled, in my opinion. The story seems to be the same while changes after 13. Okay, so I played 13 when it came out, and I forgot about it over the years. So long story short, I had only beaten a couple Final Fantasies. And so in 2020, when you really didn't have much to do, I was like, you know what? I need to play all the Final Fantasies, and I wanted to do it in order. And it's actually been nice to see the evolution of the game over the years. Now, I did play 16 when it came out because I didn't want to be behind or anything. Same with 7 Rebirth. But Final Fantasy 13, I played that just recently for the first time. I haven't played 13-2. I like 13. I don't understand the hate for it. The combat system is I have mixed opinions about it. But I like the story. And by the way, for 13-2, I met the voice actor for Noel, and I'm going to start 13-2 very soon. Jason Marston, super nice guy. For those of you who are in anime, Japanese anime, he was in the movie Spirited Away. He was Haku in Spirited Away. Super nice guy. All these people, I went to a Comic-Con last year for the first time. I used to be one of those guys that's like, Comic-Con, that's for nerds. Dude, I went last year. It was awesome. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I actually think Comic-Cons are cooler than sporting events. I hate to say it, but it's super pricey, but it's very well worth it. And here's the thing: like, I was in line to meet Henry Winkler. There were like a lot of people who were not the nerdy type who were in line to want to meet some of these celebrities. I remember being in line just to get in my brother and I, and there was a couple in front of me. They were like they were older than my parents. I'm like, oh, I thought this was just gonna be like people in their teens and 20s and whatnot. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, Jason Marston was pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, he's Noel from 13-2. So I'm excited to check that game out. I asked him about that game. He said he has no idea what the story's about. He worked on it for 9 months and he has no idea what it's about. Because I asked him, I'm like, did they tell you what happened in Final Fantasy 13? He has no idea. So I recently met Bryce Papenbrook. He's the voice actor for Zidane in the Final Fantasy Dissidia games. And I asked him too. I'm like, "Do you know about Zidane's background from Final Fantasy 9?" And he didn't actually know. Like, he's played a lot of the older Final Fantasy games, but he said that he does play Final Fantasy 9 on his phone, because a lot of the Final Fantasy games, the first 10 or the first 9, are available on mobile. So he does play it like on flights because he travels a lot for conventions. I am hungry. If you guys did not hear that, I posted that I cashed out my 401k and bet on the Chiefs since it's rigged. Yeah, that's what everyone's doing now because they know it's rigged. Secret's out. Chiefs have had 2 playoff games where all the sports shows spent Monday until Friday talking about the ref consider. Oh, of course. I mean, and it's like, people are still going to watch anyway. Man, I miss Mitch Schwartz and Eric Fisher. Boy, those offensive tackles. I mean, thank God they have Joe Tooney. Like, he's at least been somewhat, I mean, he's been fairly good. Oh, yeah, I heard that. I mean, he said that he thought Josh Allen got the first down, but he made it clear he's like, that's not why we lost, which is true. You know what? You want to know the biggest reason why the Bills lost? They failed not once, but twice for the 2-point conversion. Twice. That's why you lost. I thought this was going to be a really quiet Red Friday live chat tonight, guys. But boy, you guys, this has to be one of the longer Red Friday live chats we've done. Oh, yeah. There were a lot of people who got that draft wrong. Mitchell Trubisky was the first quarterback taken. Deshaun Watson got the most hype of any quarterback that offseason. Patrick Mahomes was like that. I don't know if you guys know this, but Patrick Mahomes, so before the 2017 draft, a couple months before in the Super Bowl where they have Radio Row, you have a lot of celebrities there and some players who are expected to go high in the draft. They're also there as well. Nobody wanted to interview Patrick Mahomes at the Super Bowl. Nobody. So his agent was going up to radio stations and was like, "Can you please interview my client here, Patrick Mahomes?" Nobody cared about Patrick Mahomes. Everyone was just talking about Deshaun Watson that offseason. Isn't anything PG anymore? That's a good question. Yeah, the better question is, what is PG these days? Beat a kid on Xbox, you'll hear about, like, yeah, they'll talk about how they banged your mom and all that shit. Play them in story order, not chronicle order. What story order, Timothy? For God of War? Last of Us is really good. I love Last of Us. I'm really glad they made a TV show out of that. There are a lot of video games that would make for great TV shows and movies. I'm surprised we don't see that often, but I think Last of Us is going to like pave the way for a lot of that. By the way, I have never seen the Final Fantasy movie. I've heard it is horrible. I want to see it just to see if it's true or not, but I'm a little nervous. Did you hear an Eagles fan died from climbing a pole after the win? Oh, I did not know that. I've seen a lot of clips of Eagles fans harassing fans of opposing teams, like that Packers chick, and then some Commanders fans. Like, really? You really want to root for that team and that fan base? Okay, go ahead, people. WCW Mayhem, yeah. Oh, he was drunk. Spags, slags, same thing. No one brought up the worthy play DPI, but if it was 3 Chiefs and 1 Buffalo, you would have seen that all over the internet. Yeah, I mean, heads or tails for the Super Bowl? Tails never fails, brother. Hold on. A lot of you guys are commenting about an airplane in Philly. Are you guys, I thought someone was joking earlier. Holy shit. You guys were not kidding. Jesus Christ, what is happening this week? The whole thing in DC is weird. Like, how did that Blackhawk not see the plane? Because there's like a clear angle of that incident, the crash, the collision. How do you miss that? And the weird part is we're not going to get any answers to it because I guess the person responsible for it, unfortunately, is no longer with us. There's so many questions about that thing, man. And that's unfortunate. Like, you're so close to landing and that happens. And listen, man, I can't swim for shit. So hearing that they all crashed into the water, like, that is scary as fuck for me. I mean, I think unfortunately the deaths occurred before they all landed in the water, but that's still scary as shit. Yeah, seven's awesome. Like, seven, I don't know if I'd call it the best. I think it gets the most hype. I mean, it's an amazing game though. The seeing the remake for that has really been wonderful. It really has been. You start at FF10, that's a damn good one. Dude, the ending for that one. Okay, I played Red Dead Redemption 1. I couldn't get through it. I got to give it another chance because I've heard a lot of great things about RDR2. And I heard that's the prequel. Yeah, I don't know. Man, this is a weird week for the aviation world. Yeah, I saw that Roman Reigns on the cover. I am not. I am not spending 5-6 grand on Super Bowl tickets. No, absolutely not. Oh, they're making a Horizon show? Nice. I guess I got to get on that quickly. God of War, play that in storyline order? Okay, Timothy. Yeah, I mean, look, gotta wait for all the facts to come out. But there was a tweet from like 2021. Somebody said that he's banned from massage parlors. Like, I don't know. And by the way, if I'm seeing people say money grab, do people go after a kicker for a money grab? And don't get me wrong, kickers make a lot of money too, but not that much money. Oh, it's headed for Missouri. I don't know, man. Like, this is not a good week. And look, I know a lot of people have their opinions about the president. I understand. The press conference, yeah, even I heard Keatsman today on his show, who leans very heavily to the right. He was like, that's not a time to be combative. It really isn't. Um, Maybe it's all one big coincidence that they happen on the same week, but it is pretty scary for people who fly frequently. I'm finally caught up on the comments. Thank God. I just don't know how you miss that, Yolanda. Like, I don't know. And again, I guess I don't think we'll ever get the answer to that. Yeah, 5K for the nosebleeds. Screw that. Listen, if you're like filthy rich, have at it. Do whatever you want. I've always said, do whatever you want with your money as long as you're not doing anything bad with it. I don't know, man. Like, I'm one of those people that's like, okay, if I can spend 5 grand for one ticket, I don't know. I think I can probably use that 5 grand on something else. That's just the way I go about things. Maybe I get everyone's different. To some people, that's worth it for them. Some people, rather than going on multiple vacations, they save all of that for this moment. Good on you. If that's how you roll, that's how you roll. Price gouging. Okay, I think I'm caught up on the comments here. I'll read a couple more. Oh, the entire bloodline. I thought it was just Roman. Red Dead 2 is one of the best games ever. It's an interactive movie. Okay. Yeah, I gotta get on that. I'm telling you what, guys, whenever football season ends, everyone's like, oh, I miss football. Not me, man. I have a huge list of like movies and TV shows because I don't get to do a lot of that during football season. I'm just gonna knock them off in the off season every year. That and video games, it's like I don't get to do a lot of that stuff during the season. Like, you guys only see like my social media and my podcast. That's all you guys see, but I do have a million other things on the side that I'm doing as well. So whenever the football season ends, I'm like, listen, here's my thing. I want the 3-peat to happen. Okay. Next year, I would not mind if the Chiefs season ended just a little early. Just a little, just a little. But listen, I mean, you got to enjoy the ride because this is not going to last forever. I mean, look at Patriots fans. You can tell they miss their dynasty for sure. Dude, players were complaining last year with the Vegas Super Bowl, like Christian McCaffrey. I mean, a lot of those guys were not happy about the prices because they only give you a certain amount. I did play Red Dead 2 for a little bit. And I was like, what should I name my horse? And that was at the time where Charkandrick West was playing in place for Jamal Charles because Jamal got hurt. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to name my horse Charkandrick. So I named my horse after Charkandrick West. I know people who can afford to go, but don't want to spend that either. Yeah, it's like, everyone has their preferences, what they want to do, what not to do. People will buy a Super Bowl ticket in place of, going on a vacation or two. I suppose that's it. 5K is worth it. I'm old. Why not? Yeah. See, I'm not the type of person that like goes after that tries to go after platinum. Like, no, not me. I don't have that much time for that kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. There's going to be a lot of turnover personnel wise. It looks like the Chiefs are going to keep their entire coaching staff. But there's going to be a lot of turnover personnel wise. You're going to see some fan favorites possibly play their last game. Get that bear yet? What bear? You want 4 straight? Yolanda, come on. 3's never happened before. And like, if you want more after this, like, come on. I was saying same thing, 3-peat, but next year I'd be okay if we didn't go. Yeah, I mean, see, here's my thing. If the Chiefs 3-peat, I'll like bitch and moan about the game right after, like if the Chiefs lose the game, but then like 5 seconds later, I'll be like, oh, wait, we just 3-peated. Who cares? You got 500 on the Eagles easy money. Cool. That's one way to donate your money to DraftKings. Just don't complain about the refs afterward. Legendary animals. Oh, okay. That. See, I never got that far. I don't platinum either. I do love that Red Dead is interactive and the story changes. Yeah, someone else I think was saying that too, or maybe that was the same. You can hunt and fish. You can fish on Final Fantasy 14. Okay, guys, I am caught up on the comments. We've been doing this for more than an hour and a half. I'm exhausted. It's been a long week for me. It's going to be even busier next week. I am hungry as hell, so I'm going to go have a late dinner. I'm getting Five Guys burgers, man. So yeah. By the way, if you guys have any suggestions for Taste Test Tuesday, it's got to be something I've never had before because I want it to be authentic. But let me know in the comments because I know you guys love that. That's starting to pick up some steam with you guys. But anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you for all the questions, the comments. You guys are awesome. I thought this was going to be a very quiet night because it's a bye week essentially. But no. See, I always say that. I'm like, it's Friday night. Who the hell is going to watch me? You guys always deliver. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your football-free Friday or football-free weekend, rather. And we will reconvene on Monday night. We do have a special guest lined up for Tuesday night. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to have a lot of podcasts and live streams next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it with all of you guys. Thank you again for watching this episode of the Red Friday Live Chat. I am Farzin Vasugi, and peace out. Talk to y'all later.